how an inheritance case is opened in Ukraine. Today I want to explain how an inheritance case is actually opened in Ukraine, without myths, without unnecessary theory, and without the confusion that often costs people time and money. Hi, I'm Andrei Navrotsky, partner of in Ukraine-based law firm Seraphim Lawyers, and let's go to the core of the case. When inheritance case is opened. Inheritance in Ukraine is opened automatically on the day a person dies. This is not an action of notary and not an application by relatives. This is happen as a legal fact and that arise on its own. But an inheritance case is already a notarial procedure. It begins only when an heir applies to a notary with an application for acceptance of inheritance. These two concepts are very often confused. People think that if nothing is happened, the case will someone open by itself. That's not true. We shall distinguish between inheritance, that is a legal fact, and inheritance triggers the right and possibility for the heirs to open the inheritance case that it's on itself constitutes a notarial procedure. Where an inheritance case is opened in Ukraine. As a general rule, the inheritance case is to be opened at the last place of residence of the deceased. If the person was registered in Ukraine, everything is simple. One applies to the notary at that place. If the place of residence is unknown or the person lived in abroad, then the inheritance case is opened at the location of the property in Ukraine. This may be an apartment, a house, a land plot, or even a bank account. During a martial law, a simplified procedure applies and inheritance case may be opened with any notary in Ukraine, regardless of the place of the residence of the deceased. What an heir must do to open an inheritance case? The key action of the heir is to file an application of acceptance of inheritance by the appropriate notary. The deadline is 6 months from the date of the death. The application may be filed by a person or by the authorized person upon the power of attorney. It may be sent with the post with a notarized signature through a Ukrainian consulate abroad. So, what the notary does after the application is filed. After receiving the application, the notary opens the inheritance case and registers it in the inheritance register of Ukraine. Then the notary checks whether there is a will or there is no will, accepts documents from the heirs and sends notarial requests. Yes, notary does send official request to the bank, real estate registers, archives, and every other state organ or legal entity that is committed to the inheritance case or in someone connected to this case or the property of the deceased person. So this is the normal and lawful practice. After that, the notary waits for the 6 months period to be expired. Until this period is expired, a certificate of inheritance cannot be issued. When and why a certificate of inheritance is issued? After the 6 months period is passed, the notary issues a certificate of inheritance. This is the key documents. These documents that allows registration of real estate, accept of funds from the bank, registration of the ownership rights, and so these documents allows registering the whole property of the deceased person to their heirs. Without these documents, no bank will release any funds. So this is the key documents in the whole inheritance case. What is to do if the 6 months deadline was missed? This is a very often question. This happens not very often, but also not very seldom. The main thing is to say here, this is not the end and this is not the catastrophe. If the 6 months period for acceptance of inheritance has been missed, there are two ways. There is two options. The first one, if other heirs have already accepted the inheritance, they may issue a written consent for you to entry into the inheritance. This has to be done by the notary. The second option, to apply to the court with a claim for restoration of the deadline of acceptance of inheritance. The court evaluates the reasons for missing the deadline and, if they are valid, allows you to accept the inheritance after the 6 months. Such cases in Ukraine are absolutely workable and are resolved on a regular basis. Whether your reasons are valid and reasonable, our lawyers considers and evaluates in every single case individually. Summary. Inheritance in Ukraine is opened automatically on the day of the deed. But inheritance case is opened only after an heir files an application. The deadline is 6 months. The place is determined by the residence or by the location of the property. And if the deadline is expired, it is a problem, but not the dead end. If you have inheritance issues in Ukraine or abroad, it is better to sort them out immediately, rather than litigate for years later. If you have inheritance case in Ukraine, please apply and revert to us. We will handle your case fast, confidentially, and very highly professionally. It is everything from me on this case briefly. Till later. Bye-bye.